Damn, Logan's really getting attacked at all angles. I've seen this so many times. I don't understand why he keeps this up. It can't just be genuine stupidity. It must be like, I guess, stupidity, but more accurately like negligence and like not hiring the proper people to do the job. Maybe he's like getting people that are cheaper to do the job so he doesn't have to pay as much and they're not as good. I don't understand why he keeps this up. Why is he being sued by all these people right now? Plus, he's also being sued by the victims of the crypto zoo thing, right? How is this happening? Legal Eagle typically does a good job with this kind of stuff. I don't know that I trust his opinion necessarily, but he seems to have a better understanding of the law than I do. And he made a video about Logan Paul's lawsuits. Apparently he's being sued by multiple people right now. So I'm curious to see that.
Everyone is suing Logan Paul, which is weird because he seemed like he took legal obligations so seriously.
I had to rely on my team. I crumbled internally.
Will you address the Suing allegations? Absolutely not.
Aren't looking great for Logan Paul or his Prime energy drink company. Dramatically declining sales are only the tip of the iceberg and have caused him to be sued by not just the US Olympic Committee, but also the manufacturer of the drink. As many YouTubers have found out, your fans can propel you to huge success on the streaming service, but selling products away from YouTube is about much more than a hungry fan base. And if you don't cross your legal T's and dot your legal I's, you could be in a lot of hot water. And that's where Logan Paul finds himself today, thanks to 2 lawsuits that may sink his popular beverage brand.
Oh, I heard about this. I think the bottling distributor is suing him over some agreement that he didn't fulfill. We'll have to see more about it, but I did hear about this from the deep state, from behind the scenes, okay, on the YouTube world. Okay, I heard about this.
The US Olympic Committee is suing Paul for trademark infringement, and Prime's manufacturer said that Paul breached their contract when sales of the drinks started to tank.
The Olympic Committee is suing him? He's being sued by the Olympics? Wow. This is always really interesting to see because it seems like there are very few YouTubers who have managed to make that transition into like the mainstream realm without serious issues. Maybe this is a problem that every brand that exists in the mainstream also face, and we just don't hear about it because there's not like a public figure ascribed to it. Right? So like if Coca-Cola had like the Coca-Cola streamer and his name was Zippy Poop Wog or whatever everybody would be like, oh, Zippy, whatever, this guy, we can pin it on a person, right? But like, because Coca-Cola is like a nameless, faceless company, like when they have a controversy, it's not as easy to like tie it to one person versus for Logan Paul, like any brand he has is like tied to him. So it's seen as like his failure when this happens, right?
So today we'll be breaking down those 2 lawsuits. Now, Logan Paul has a knack for making quick money, scamming people, and getting...
It really seems like any YouTuber that transitions to the mainstream has a really hard time, either with a product or with like a TV show, right? I mean, with Mr. Beast, you know, everybody was confident that his TV show deal would work out with Amazon where he's doing Beast games. And now we see all these issues, right? And even like, you know, before that with any YouTuber who would do like a TV show, if the problem wasn't like, you know, as serious as Mr. Beast, then the problem was like, it was just a bad show. Like Lily Singh, her late night show was like bad. It's bad, right? I don't even know how she got that deal. So it seems very... I don't know, the overall confidence I think that big brands and people outside of the YouTube industry are going to have in YouTubers over the next while is not going to be that good. I think we're facing a downturn in YouTuber stock, so to speak, right now, and like the mainstream's confidence in our abilities to do things right.
Getting punched in the face. And our last video about Paul covered his bonus defamation lawsuit against CoffeeZilla. Now, fighting this lawsuit is costly, and you can check out CoffeeZilla's video on how you can help. But the current dust-up is about Paul's beverage line, Prime, which launched with influencer KSI back in 2022.
We made a better for you drink that tastes better.
Yeah. Prime currently has...
I don't know that it's better for you. I've seen like, I follow a bunch of these like workout spurg channels, right? Like I follow More Plates, More Dates. I follow, who is the... What's his name? I'm realizing I was going to say the bald short Jack guy, but that describes like half of those people. But is his name, is it Mike Israetel? Mike Israetel? That guy makes good videos. Yeah, Renaissance Periodization, that channel. But basically every channel I've seen from that world has not had a positive opinion of Prime, at least in terms of its comparability to other sports drinks. Like in comparison to Gatorade, I don't think it's nearly as effective for hydration. Now, I will say, I don't really like the Prime hydration drink. When I've tried it, I don't really like it. I don't really drink Gatorade that much anyway, but I definitely prefer the taste of Gatorade, and that's what I go off of. I do like, and I've said it before, the energy drinks. I think I've only had the green one, the lime one, but it basically tastes like, it's like Sprite with caffeine, and it tastes really good. So that is good. I like that one. Sports drink isn't an energy drink. They have 2. There is a sports drink. There's like a hydration drink, which is the normal Prime product, and then there's the energy drink. So there's 2 things.
There's 2 offerings, Prime Hydration, which doesn't have caffeine, and Prime Energy, which does. A 12-ounce bottle of Prime Energy has about 200 milligrams of caffeine, which is the equivalent of about 6 cans of Coke. Now, demand for both products was initially through the roof. People lined up at dawn to get the new flavors. Bottles were sold out on eBay for thousands of dollars, and people literally fought each other to get their hands on the orange mango flavor. And of course, both Logan Paul and KSI have been involved in various controversies over the years, from problematic content on YouTube to highly publicized personal feuds. These controversies have spilled over into their business ventures, including lawsuits and inquiries by several US states and many more European countries. Basically, wherever Prime's beverages have appeared, they've also been the target of the law. For example, Canadian and New Zealand regulators banned Prime Energy because it exceeds their regulatory limits for caffeine. But in the US, there is no legal limit for the amount of caffeine the company.
Wait, which countries was it banned in?
Wherever Prime's beverages have appeared.
Wait, is that really the case? When I was living in Canada, they sold, I mean, in fairness, I wasn't going to like a super regulated, nice gas station, but there was like a really shitty gas station by my apartment that they had like expired pudding on the shelves and shit. Like it was foul. It felt like when I went in there, they were just selling whatever the they could find. Like there'd just be like weird random knickknacks on the top, and the Indian working there would be like $5. Like there was just all this random shit they were selling, and they always had Prime. I think it was marked up to all hell, but they did have it.
Target of the law. For example, Canadian and New Zealand regulators banned Prime Energy because it exceeds their regulatory limits for caffeine. But in the US, there is no legal limit for the amount of caffeine the companies can put into their
base.
And thank goodness for that.
America!
But we discussed high caffeine levels in the video that we did on Panera Bread's Charged Lemonade. And when the same concerns were raised...
Bread's Charged Lemonade? I thought I heard about this. Panera Bread Lemonade controversy. Restaurant chain Panera Bread has faced 3 lawsuits in recent months, claiming the high levels of caffeine in Charged Lemonade led to the death of 2 customers and irreversible health complications in another. How much caffeine is in it? How much caffeine is in Panera Bread Lemonade? 390 milligrams. That's a lot. That's actually a lot. I'm pretty sure the daily, this says, I guess the U.S. Food and Drug Administration says the average adult can consume 400 a day. I thought the average adult could consume 600 a day max, but either way, 390 is so much. It seems like they did just under the FDA's limit. I kind of want to try that caffeine. I want to drink 4 in a row and see if I die.
About Prime, Senator Chuck Schumer asked the FDA to investigate Prime Energy. And in April, consumers filed a class action.
Instead of doing pre-workout, you just take the Panera Bread Lemonade.
Lawsuit accusing Prime of mislabeling the amount of caffeine in each drink. Though Prime says its energy drink has a warning label that it is not recommended for children under 18 and that it contains comparable level of caffeine to other competitors. Now, obviously, if you're getting sued by the notoriously litigious U.S. Olympic Committee, you want a good lawyer. But if you want a great lawyer, my law firm, the Eagle Team, can help.
Dickhead.
So you can click below. But Paul and KSI are now facing 2 additional lawsuits that show how sloppy Prime is at business. In a complaint filed on July 29th in Federal District Court of Colorado, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, or USOPC, sued Prime for the unlawful use of Olympic trademarks. The complaint alleges that Prime, quote, in a deliberate and willful attempt to trade on the PC intellectual property, used Olympic-related terminology and trademarks in marketing its products on internet advertising and in promotions for a Prime hydration flavor.
Interesting. So they used the Olympic logo and they weren't supposed to?
The infringed trademarks include Olympic, Olympian, Team USA, and Going for Gold.
Wait, really? Olympic, Olympian, and Going for Gold, I feel like it's not a problem. Team USA, I could see as a problem because it's like marketing itself as if it is a part of like the Olympic. People would be like, oh, they're sponsored by the Olympics, therefore it's super swag, right? I could see that. The other, like Olympic, Olympian, maybe Olympic I could see more, but like Olympian, Kevin Durant, is he not an Olympian? Has he not played at the Olympics? I feel like it's probably not that big of a deal. I mean, obviously legally they can do what they want, but I feel like they're just trying to go for the Kevin marketing.
Now, I first heard about this lawsuit from Legal Bites.
All those words are trademarked? Well, Trademark is gay.
Who made a video explaining why Prime was in legal trouble. This lawsuit came out when there was a lot going on in the world and I was focused on other things.
No way that Prime, Logan's drink, is targeted to 18 plus, his audience is 12-year-olds. I actually don't know what his audience is, to be honest. I don't know what Logan's audience is at this point, because definitely like when I was like 16 and like Logan Paul was like coming on the scene, I feel like I had the impression that his audience was really young, but at this point I don't really know how old they are. I feel like it's not as young as you think, especially for like the Impulsive podcast. I feel like it's probably a little bit older. I don't know. It's probably, I would guess that it's probably like, and this is just me guessing randomly. I don't have any reason to say this, right? I'm just spewing bullshit, but I would guess that his audience is probably 16 to 20 in there. 12-year-olds aren't watching podcasts. Yeah, I don't think they usually are. I don't know how young they are. Do you still watch them, Tom? I never did. When he was coming on the scene, I was already watching commentary channels. So like I was watching him get shit on. One of the first Logan Paul videos I watched all the way through actually was the Suicide Forest video. I randomly got it in my recommended the night that it came out and I watched it and I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad. And then the next day everybody was making videos about it. But yeah, I was never like a Logan Paul fan. I will say, the more I see of Jake, and his personality. I kind of like Jake. I find him more likable. Logan, even on some of his podcasts, I found him somewhat likable. I mean, he is kind of a phony douchebag, but I don't know. I kind of appreciate their athleticism, and I appreciate Jake's boxing stuff. He seems like a good boxer. I'm not like a boxing fan, but when I watch him, he seems pretty good. When I listen to Jake talk, he seems much more likable now than he was when he was like 18.
But you should really check out the video. She does a good job of explaining U.S. trademark law, including why an official Team USA...
But also, I just kind of have like the guy disease, which is like a thing, but I do, where like I see a famous dude with like cool cars, and I'm like, that's sick. Like that was my, like, when I first saw Andrew Tate, my immediate response was like, he has really cool cars, that's sick. You know, and I didn't really think beyond that.
Merchandise licensee has significant value to brands. As you probably know, a trademark can be any word, phrase, symbol, design, or combination of these things that identifies goods or services. The purpose of U.S. trademark law is to allow consumers to easily identify producers of goods and services and avoid confusion. And because of that, a trademark can last indefinitely so long as the user is using it in commerce, unlike copyright or patent law, which eventually expires. Now, with respect to the Olympic Games, for decades, brands have known that when consumers see a product with the words Team USA or the image of a popular athlete, they are more willing to buy it. And so if a company wants in on U.S. Olympic glory, it has to become a licensee of the USOPC. And the USOPC gets to decide who can use those trademarks and where they appear. So for example, if you see a Wheaties box featuring Katie Ledecky or Simone Biles with the words "Go for the gold," that's because Wheaties paid for a license. And lots of...
Oh, I see. Okay. So essentially Logan just used the branding without paying for a license. The thing with situations like this is like, I know it's Logan's brand, but you would think with like how big it is and how many people must be involved, like obviously it's not Logan Paul and KSI sitting in a warehouse like doing all of this and figuring it out, right? They have other things to do. They have people they hire for it. You would think there'd be someone of their legal team who was like, you can't do that. Like you can't put "Go for Gold" on the packaging because you're going to get over, right? Like you would think there's somebody working for them who would be like, yeah, you can't do that. Like I don't understand how this even got to this level where he could be sued. That's the thing that's so confusing to me about someone like Logan Paul. Like you would think he's got people hired who would be able to be like, hey Logan, you can't do that, man. That's not going to be good. You can't do that. Like how do you even get in this kind of situation when you have that much money and that much is like riding on you, you know? How does that even happen? It's very perplexing to me. Logan's got a loose goose. True. His goose is loose and he has a loose goose. Very true.
companies work with the U.S.
Why not buy the license? I'd imagine it's expensive to get an Olympic license, and that's why Wheaties can afford it, because it's like isn't like a Kellogg's brand. That's probably why. But I mean, I would assume it's expensive. That's why you wouldn't buy the license. But I feel like the easier solution is just to not use that branding. You'll still make money, right?
OPC, such as Coca-Cola, Polo, Eli Lilly, Cisco, Warner Brothers, Delta, Fanatics, and Visa. And of course, Prime is not on that list because it never negotiated a license. However, the label on the bottle of Prime's Kevin Durant-themed hydration drink features Durant's name emblazoned above a curiously patriotic-looking Prime logo. The bottle also talks up Durant as the 3X Olympic gold and counting. The text says when KD steps on the court, he's going for gold. And the complete features lots of ads that Prime Hydration placed on social media and on its official website, as well as advertisements on various social media platforms and physical printouts for stores selling the drink. For example, quote, Prime Hydration provided ad copy to stores selling the infringing product that prominently used the Olympic marks, using the word Olympic 6 times in ad copy, including 2 uses of Kevin Durant Olympic Prime drink.
Okay. I mean, honestly, you know, I said Trademark is gay, but from that perspective, I honestly do understand. I understand the Olympic Committee's perspective on it, because, I mean, the Olympics is a very prestigious official brand, okay? For boomers like my parents, it's like, the Olympics, you know? Even my parents don't really care that much. It's more like, I think, the generation above them. But the Olympics was like regarded as like the greatest event ever, okay, for a long time. So when you have the Olympic seal of approval on it, even if like you don't technically have it, people perceive that you do, they're more inclined to buy it. So I understand why the Olympics would be keen on taking him to court.
Celebrate greatness with the Kevin Durant Olympic Prime drink, Olympic achievements, Kevin Durant Olympic legacy, and other uses. Now, I found this to be fascinating because not only does the USOPC have the rights to the trademark by right of trademark law, but they actually got it written into law. 36 U.S. Code 220506 grants the U.S. Olympic Committee exclusive rights to the name, seals, emblems, badges, all of that associated with the Olympics, including the name, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and the symbol of the International Olympic Committee, as well as related words and phrases, including Olympics, Olympiad, and Paralympic. And the law says that the Olympic Committee can bring a civil lawsuit under the Trademark Act of 1946 against a person who, without the committee's consent, uses the Olympics-related symbols, emblems, and words mentioned earlier for the purpose of trade to induce the sale of any goods or services, or to promote any theatrical exhibition, athletic performance, or competition. Now, the law does include some exceptions from civil suit, mostly to do with place names and regions with variants of Olympic in the name, such as Olympia, Washington. But unfortunately for Prime, they aren't one of...
Yeah, they were... I don't think Prime had Olympia, Washington. with like 2 rings as like knockoff branding. I think they just said, you know, Olympic drink, epic Olympic drink, epic Olympic drink, Olympic ring, Kevin Durant, Olympian. I don't know. You know, I went into this somewhat skeptical. Okay, I was even willing to defend Logan Paul. As you know, I'm a big fan of him. I'm his biggest glazer. I defended him against the animal abuse allegations, but it doesn't seem surprising to me here that he's been taken to court. Thank you, Elderek, for becoming a member. Am I really a parasite? Yes, you are, Lux, and that's okay. I love parasites. I wish I had a tape.
And the second claim for relief is a regular trademark infringement claim under the Lanham Act. The complaint alleges that Prime...
Can we get the locale Olympics? Dude, I had an idea. I thought it would be cool for the IRL channel at some point if I can get a bunch of money for it, because right now that channel has made like no money. But I had the idea that I would take the money for it and like try to rent a house and then get like Boogie, Wings, DSP. He probably wouldn't do it, but someone like that, like all the classic lolcows in like a house to live together, and I would have them do like physical challenges like weightlifting, have them like play basketball. I thought it would be really funny. But I mean, I can't put the money to that right now. But if the, you know, IRL channel takes off, I'll do it. I'll give you 10 grand. I think it would be a lot more than 10 grand to do it, because you got to like pay for everybody to travel out there, pay for the place for them to stay, pay for their food, pay for production team. You like, I would need more than one camera for this, right? I would need like a whole, it's like I have like a TV set image in my head of how this would go. So I think it would be more complicated than 10 grand would pay for. But you know, maybe Brad Taste can help me out. Shoot me some serious dosh. Maybe that'll fix my problem.
Prime's use of the Olympic trademarks is likely to cause confusion.
That might not work out as well as you think it will. I mean, I think it would be a nightmare, even if I could get the money for it, even if I could get it all set up. Like, having them all there would be a complete nightmare. Yeah, I agree. But I think it could be funny in an ideal world.
Mistake or deception about the source of its products, thus infringing on the USOPC's trademark rights. And in the U.S., courts evaluate a claim for trademark infringement primarily by analyzing whether there is a likelihood of confusion between the plaintiff's and defendant's marks. And most courts use some combination of the factors set forth in the case of Polaroid versus Polarat Electrics. These include the strength of the senior user's mark, the similarity of the two marks, the similarity of the products or services, the junior user's intent in adopting the mark, and the sophistication of the buyers. And courts will also consider evidence of actual confusion by consumers. And another issue is whether there's similarity.
I'm really curious about number 6, like if they can prove that consumers were confused and thought that the product was endorsed by the Olympics in some way and that's why they bought it. I'm really curious if they can prove that.
And here the USOPC is right that its mark is frequently used on similar goods. Powerade is the official sports drink of Team USA, and Prime is its direct competitor. The USOPC sent a cease and desist letter on July 10th, but it alleges that Prime continued to ship products and use the marks on...
Oh, shit. So they sent a cease and desist and were like, hey, guys, stop. And they kept going. Bro, if you get a cease and desist and you know that you're in the wrong, the easiest thing to do is to just not do it anymore. Then you won't get sued. So... To me, it seems like Logan and his team and whoever's behind Prime either genuinely thought they couldn't be taken to court for it, or they didn't see the cease and desist. Because if they knew they could be taken to court for it and they did it anyway, that's like the most thing you can do. Best thing to do is comply. If you're in the wrong, yeah, obviously. If you're in the right, I guess you don't have to comply, but...
The company continued to feature both the bottle and copy on LinkedIn, making it look like it deliberately wanted to use the goodwill associated with Team USA to promote its own products and brand. There's a third claim for unfair competition and false designation of origin in violation of 15 U.S.C. 1125. And there's a fourth claim for trademark dilution. Now that's interesting because dilution occurs when a third party uses a mark or trade name in commerce that is sufficiently similar to a famous mark such that it harms consumer perception of the famous mark. The complaint says that, quote, the USOPC has used the famous Olympic trademark in interstate commerce since at least as early as 1896, which is prior to the use by defendant. It notes that...
Prior to the use by defendant. Well, Logan Paul has been around since 1901, so I could see the confusion there, honestly, but, you know, clearly, I mean, there's a 15-year difference at least, right? I'm so excited for the Stop Gooning hat drop.
The Olympic marks have been used in commerce by the U.S. for decades, and billions of viewers around the globe are expected to tune into the games this summer. Prime Hydration's use will dilute the distinctive quality of the famous Olympic marks under Section 43 of the Lanham Act and injure the USOPC. And the courts have given the USOPC even stronger protection for its trademarks than it would have under a normal trademark claim under the Lanham Act. In San Francisco Arts and Athletic Inc. versus United States Olympic Committee, the Supreme Court barred the San Francisco Arts and Athletics Company from using the words Olympic in its gay Olympic Games. The court...
Wait, what?
held that the...
What is it? What? I'm sorry, we can't just skip over that. In the summer of 1982, Marcia Veal and her colleagues at the Gay Games Organizing Committee had a Herculean task in front of them, preparing Kezar Stadium, an aging facility, for a first of its kind sporting event. The Gay Games? Gay Games organizers. Why is this real? It's LA. It's San Francisco. It's even worse. Gay Games? What the is gay games. It is perhaps not by accident that LGBTQ incursions into the stadium space occurred when there was a relative lull in stadium construction. After the stadium building boom of the 60s and 70s, when 48 stadiums and arenas were built for major league teams across the country, the pace of construction slowed considerably. Wow, well that is homophobic AF. During the AIDS crisis, dark.
The committee had the exclusive rights to the word Olympic under the Amateur Sports Act of 1978, and could prohibit its use without needing to prove trademark infringement or consumer confusion, which you would...
Well, the hats have a size 8. I have boogie size head. It'll all be the same size hat. You can see it right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notches in it. I don't know the exact size of this, but no. If your head can fit, I guess, into this, if you have a giant head, I think you'll be okay. I don't know how big your head is though. Worst case scenario, I guess just pull it apart and tape it in the back, but yeah, it's adjustable. Snapback, it's not even a snapback. Well, I guess it is literally back here, but it doesn't have the snapback brim. It has the normal brim. And under the brim, it has this cool deconstructed M16 design. Look at that. How swag is that? This is a cool hat. And we're doing a very limited run. How much will they be? I don't have exact pricing yet, but I believe it'll be under 30 bucks.
Would normally need to do under a trademark action. The court ruled that this exclusive right was constitutional and did not violate the First Amendment because the committee's use of the word served a legitimate purpose and its protection did not unfairly restrict free speech. And courts interpret 36 U.S.C. 380 broadly. It gives the committee the sole power to use the International Olympic Committee. It gives the committee the sole power to use the International Olympic logo consisting of 5 interlocking rings. For example, in USOC versus Interlicense Corp., the committee sued a marketing firm for publishing pictograms using the Olympic rings mark. Quote, the pictogram...
So they have a long history of suing people for using anything related to them, right? Like, once again, with an organization like this, the Olympics, that has such a long history of suing people for using anything related to their branding, why would Logan even risk it? Why would they even risk it? Like, why even take that kind of risk? Why not just do it? Are the shirts pre-orders or shipped out immediately? We're getting them in the U.S. right now. The reason they haven't dropped yet is I don't want to do pre-orders right now. I might in the future, but basically what I do is I order every single shirt into the States. The reason why it takes so long is because what I do is I get every single shirt shipped into the US, and then once they're in the States, then I sell it. So basically, yeah, there's no pre-order. Pretty soon after you order it, it'll be shipped out. They have their own trademark written to law. Why test them? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It just doesn't seem very wise. Are there going to be shirts? Yeah, there will be shirts. I think they're going to be 40 bucks. We're trying to make it relatively affordable, at least for now. Eventually, we'll be running the
Programs at issue are graphic designs of athletes participating in various summer and winter Olympic sports against a backdrop that explicitly incorporates the Olympic symbol consisting of 5 interlocking rings. The International Olympic Committee had given the firm permission to use the rings, but the Second Circuit Court of Appeals said that that was not an interlicense, needed the USOPC's permission to use the rings in the United States. And some argue that the USOPC takes this protection to the extreme. For example, in 2005, the committee threatened to sue the Improv Olympic Theater if it did not change its name. The Improv Olympic Theater helped launch the careers of Stephen Kolb, Seth Meyers, and Bob Odenkirk, among others. And the group had been using the name for 20 years, but it changed its name to IO to avoid the lawsuit.
This is the thing. Like, the Olympics is so litigious. Why even risk this kind of situation where you could be caught up in something like this, right? Especially with, like, when you're a public figure like Logan Paul and you have a lot riding on you, right? You have a lot riding on your career. And public reception is everything. Why even risk this? Like, as time passes, I'm really starting to see Logan Paul as a idiot. Like a genuine, or whoever's working for him consistently is between this and CryptoZoo, right? Because I don't understand.
But Logan Paul might have some exceptions. There is an exception to U.S. trademark law known as nominative fair use that may help Prime. Nominative fair use permits the use of another's mark to refer to the trademark owner's goods and services associated with that mark. This is permissible as long as the use is necessary to identify the product or service, the use is limited to what is needed to make the identification clear, and the use suggests that the trademark owner endorses or is affiliated.
He's just a bad person. I mean, he does seem like a bad person, but it's not even just about that. Like, a lot of bad people will at least be smart about being a bad person. He's like a bad person, and he's also really stupid about how he does it. He can't help himself but get caught and get into really serious situations. Like with CryptoZoo, right? You can be a bad person and do a rug pull. A lot of people have done that. The problem is, like, he couldn't even do the rug pull properly, if that's what you think it was. It was like he completely failed it. So I just don't understand. I don't understand how he failed everything. I really don't get it. Though I walk through the valley of Tom Dark, I shall fear no evil. Yeah, Frank, you should be fearing a lot of evil because I'm evil. You should be fearing me based on that troll you pulled on me. You.
Affiliated with a user. The nominative fair use doctrine was created in a case that involved the New Kids on the Block versus 2 new...
Who is he targeting using the Olympics, TM? I mean, I think he's trying to target an older audience, right? Like, that would be who. Because if you have that kind of branding, you're going to attract an older, more mature audience that respects institutions and respects the Olympics. So that would be why, basically.
Gauging the band's popularity. The court ruled that the use of the band's name did not violate the trademark because it was necessary to identify the band and did not suggest sponsorship. So hypothetically, Coca-Cola...
Oh, wait, I'm super curious about that.
But nominative fair use permits the use of another's mark to refer to the trademark owner's goods and services associated with that mark. This is permissible as long as the use is necessary to identify the product or service, the use is limited to what is needed to make the identification clear, and the use suggests that the trademark owner endorses or is affiliated with a user. The nominative fair use doctrine was created in a case that involved the New Kids on the Block versus two newspapers that ran polls gauging the band's popularity. The court ruled that the use of the band's name did not violate the trademark because it was necessary to identify the band and did not suggest sponsorship.
Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting. So fair use can even work for, I didn't know that. Fair use can work for the title of something if it's necessary to identify your unique brand and not a prior brand. Okay. Interesting.
So hypothetically, Coca-Cola could say it's better than Pepsi, even though Pepsi is trademarked, because there's really no other way to identify the product other than calling it Pepsi. For example, in Playboy Enterprises versus Wells, the Ninth Circuit ruled that Terry Wells' use of the term Playboy and Playmate on her website was nominative fair use because it accurately described her former status and did not imply Playboy's sponsorship or endorsement. The court held that Wells was allowed to mention the name Playboy and use the related terms like Playmate
Because she was a member of that business.
of the Year
Or she was a part of the business. She's identified through that.
PMOY, but she couldn't use Playboy's most distinctive mark, the Playboy Bunny. So you can see how that might apply here. First, we look at whether the trademark is necessary to identify the product or service. And in fact, this often comes up when you're talking about the Super Bowl. And for various reasons, people have come up with some very creative ways of describing the Super Bowl. But for example, the Pittsburgh Steelers have won 6 Super Bowls. If you wanted to describe this level of success,
It's not my area of expertise. I'm just saying it. Most trans are included in the LGBTQ plus category. So why not let gay athletes compete in the LGBT category? Hypothetically speaking, I feel like you're being right now. The point of trans people not being allowed to compete with cis athletes is because their biology is different, like intrinsically. Like if you transition from a male to a female, right? If you go from man to woman, that's fine. But when it comes to an Olympic context, like men have higher testosterone, men are, larger, stronger, faster on average, right? So that's what the concern is over that. If you're gay, I don't think you typically have a different biology in terms of like test levels than the average man. So I don't think that would really be a problem.
you couldn't really get your point across without saying the phrase Super Bowl, even though that's trademarked. It would be strange to say the Steelers won 6 really big games. The second factor is whether you're using as much of the trademark as necessary. So in that context, the phrase Super Bowl, which is a trademark, is probably okay, but your use of the Super Bowl logos, that's probably a step too far. So similarly, Prime is probably free to say that Durant won 3 gold medals, but the company probably can't use the Olympic rings. And the third factor
Right.
is that you can't create the impression that you're affiliated or endorsed by the user.
And the entire issue is they did create that impression. Therefore, in the Olympic committees, the Olympic organization's opinion anyway. So that's why they're suing him. That's why they're suing Logan Paul's company.
And that's where the USOPC has gotten very aggressive, and they will police any suggestion.
Not sure I'm gay and slurping spum increases test by 900%. Damn. Well, you should be banned from the Olympics for sure. You got to compete in the steroid Olympics. I actually heard recently, I thought they were going to organize some kind of Olympics or something where gear is completely allowed, and I thought that was awesome. Those people are going to have their life up forever, but that'll be really entertaining to watch. That'll be really, really funny to watch. Imagine watching UFC, but like gear is completely legal and everybody is on it and nobody cares and it's like totally allowed. That would be like the most amazing competition of all time.
The company or person is formally affiliated with the U.S. Olympic team because it's trying to protect the value of the sponsorship that it sells. But here, the Wells decision might actually help Prime argue that it had a right, with Durant's permission, to describe him as an Olympic champion and a gold medal winner. If you take a look at the bottle, it doesn't seem to use the font favored by the USPC, and Durant isn't featured on the bottle wearing his Team USA uniform, and there's no other indications that the Olympic Committee is partnering with Prime. And so the USOPC is seeking all the profits associated with the sale of Prime, which the committee claims is in the millions of dollars. It also wants damages for harm
Did Logan use the Olympic rings, though? Did they use the Olympic rings in the branding?
imposed on its sponsorship agreements with its licensees. But Prime has yet to respond to the lawsuit, possibly because it's busy fighting another major lawsuit, which is about the
Unpacking Prime Hydration's Olympic TM suit. Finnegan is this website. The USOP's lawsuit against Prime Hydration is the most recent example of the USOPC's robust enforcement program. The lawsuit centers on Prime's Olympic-themed beverage collaboration with NBA All-Star and Olympic basketball player Kevin Durant, who was not named a party in the suit. According to the complaint, Prime used unlicensed Olympic IP on its product packaging and in the advertising on the Prime website. Prime's packaging and promotion of the beverage included use of Olympic trademarks such as Olympic Kevin Durant, Olympic Prime Drink, Team USA, and Going for Gold. It seems to me like these specific terms, I don't know if, it doesn't seem to me like they use the Olympic, well, he did say here in the video he used the Olympic rings, but stuff like specifically Olympic and Olympian, stuff like that would probably get him sued. The US OPC's swift action in this instance appears to be working. As of late July, Prime had removed the beverage from its website and social media, though it was still available for purchase online through other retailers. Even if the case doesn't last much longer, it serves as a strong reminder of the risks of associated with advertising featuring Olympic IP and athletes. Olympic IP is afforded very strong legal protection in the U.S., and the U.S. OPC continues to be vigilant and successful in enforcing those rights. So they seem to be thinking, whoever this is, Finnegan.com, Morgan E. Smith, this, I assume, lawyer, seems to be thinking that the U.S. OPC is going to destroy in court.
The lack of success of Prime. It's really getting whipsawed here. In November of 2023, Bloomberg concluded that Prime was on track to make over $1.2 billion in sales. Prime and its branding company Congo were bullish on the company's future. With supply outstripping demand, the company looked for a manufacturer that could handle the large orders. So they turned to Refresco, a beverage manufacturer that produces products for various brands and retailers. And in 2022 and early 2023, Refresco acted as the bottler for Prime, but only on a spot basis, meaning that they would only accept irregular orders on demand. However, this arrangement was costly because it required Refresco to purchase from third parties unfilled bottles that had been fabricated for Prime's unique design and trade dress, including the shape and size, because specialized molds and related equipment are needed to fabricate those bottles. And in early 2023, Prime wanted to lower its production costs by limiting the deals with third-party bottle suppliers. So Refresco allegedly informed Prime that a production line in its Truesdale, Missouri factory had become available. And to produce its products, Refresco would need to refit a dedicated line with new equipment, including some that would be custom-made to accommodate defendants' bottles. According to Refresco, in the normal course of business, customers pay for or finance the cost of ordering all that equipment, but Prime and Congo were not willing to reimburse Refresco for the dedicated line. Unless Refresco would be unable to use that line for any other customer, the company asked Prime to minimize its risk by agreeing to minimum orders for 3 years. Prime allegedly agreed to order a minimum of 18.5 million cases, or 222 million bottles, for a total of 55.5 million cases cumulatively over the 3 years. And apparently there was also a take-it-or-pay-it arrangement. Defendants would be obligated to pay Refresco a fixed shortfall amount for each 12-bottle case below the volume.
So essentially, in this agreement, Refresco got themselves insurance, allegedly. They got themselves insurance in case things went wrong. And it seems like Logan Paul / Prime / this business, according to them, did not uphold their end of that insurance agreement. It's not literally insurance, but it's like, you know, insurance on their investment, essentially, right?
Commitment that defendants did not purchase. The parties called this contract the Truesdale Agreement. And since demand was so high at the time, Prime told Refresco that they anticipated needing, quote, spot contracts for production from other Refresco facilities from time to time. So the parties also worked toward a master supply agreement, or MSA, to facilitate future spot contracts for Prime products.
Jesus, that's so many bottles.
Other Refresco facilities. So the Truesdale Agreement was signed on April 3rd, 2023, and Refresco immediately ordered customized equipment from third-party manufacturers in Europe. The agreement...
So they spent a bunch of money to produce Prime specifically to help them out, right? Because of this contract.
Contained a provisional deadline for starting production on the dedicated line, and the last line says that the provisional deadline could be changed as agreed by the parties. And Refresco alleges that on June 12, 2023, the parties changed the deadline for the dedicated line. The changes were apparently discussed in a phone call and then memorialized on a spreadsheet, which said, quote, the dedicated line in Truesdale would be ready for startup in March-April 2024. The revised date was necessary because the European manufacturer of the equipment needed more time. So in this exchange, you can see how business relationships can gradually break down. Refresco says an email attachment contained a new date for commencement of the dedicated line, but Prime did not respond with a clear message that it agreed to the new deadline. Refresco continued to make plans for the dedicated line, but Prime seemingly did not object. And the agreement obligated the parties to keep working on the MSA, which was supposed to be done by October 1st, 2023, but Prime didn't give feedback on the MSA until the deadline passed. And by the spring of 2024, the dedicated line was just about ready for production, but when Refresco told the defendants that they needed to know Prime's orders for April and May, the Prime defendants said that they would have an estimate by the end of the day, quote, but they did not provide the requested forecast that day or ever.
Holy shit, they just ghosted them? Getting ghosted by your business partner like it's your ex-girlfriend is so funny. Damn. Once again, like, I don't know if this is problems that occur with every single large business in the world, and every single large business is constantly being sued. But with Logan Paul and the amount of money he has, and like the amount of money he's made from his businesses, the money that's coming in, you'd think he'd be able to hire like a super competent team to deal with this kind of shit. And like, I don't understand how he keeps running into all these issues. I really don't understand it. I don't understand how this is the case at all. How did this even happen?
And after 3 weeks of silence, Prime's manager of external manufacturing told Refresco that, quote, the decision was made to not move forward with the incubation or flavor qualification at Truesdale. That is a roundabout way of saying that the deal is dead. Sorry, not sorry about the new dedicated line. Now, Refresco says that the reason Prime canceled the deal is because it realized that a slowdown in sales of their Prime hydration products.
Right, but they still have an obligation to fulfill their end of the contract, right? I assume, which is why they're being sued.
Likely was not just seasonal, that those sales, which had slowed in early winter, were not picking up as spring approached, as defendants had expected.
Seems like people stopped buying Prime in general. The thing is, I do remember Prime was being talked about so much for a while. And then I feel like at one point you just kind of stopped hearing about it. I feel like the hype kind of died down. And there is always with like a YouTuber product, right? When they drop something or any new product, there's like a hype period. And then there's like the period we need to figure out if that product is actually going to hold on. If it's a good product, people will consistently buy, right? If they hook you. With certain products that are really good, they'll just hook you for life. Like they'll just get you, right? Like my aunt loves Diet Coke. As long as I've been alive, I can remember her drinking Diet Coke. You ask her what drink she wants at any point in time, it's going to be Diet Coke. They got her for life, right? They've had her since Diet Coke like came out in like the 80s or 90s or something. Like she's in, right? The challenge for like a company like Prime is like you release something, you get the hype from it, and then you get like lifelong buyers who will continue purchasing it forever. And it doesn't seem like Prime was able to maintain that.
Prime claimed that the Truesdale agreement expired on its own terms because the parties...
And the same applies to Mr. Beast chocolate bars, by the way. Like, I heard a lot about it for a little bit, even people I knew in real life, and then nobody talked about it anymore.
...didn't come to terms on the master supply agreement. That would be a fairly weak explanation since the main reason for the business relationship was to get a dedicated line that would allow Refresco to fill massive orders. The more likely scenario...
I heard Prime caused heart attacks or some kind of health problem because of the high caffeine. Maybe that happened. I don't think they're... I mean, I think that the caffeine in the energy drink was higher than, like, certain territories allow, but I don't think it was, like, an absolutely insane amount. Like, I doubt more caffeine-related health issues are coming from Prime when compared to, like, Bang Energy or something like that.
Scenario is that Prime decided not to perform on its obligations because sales of Prime dramatically slowed down. So Refresco sued for breach of contract, promissory estoppel, and equitable estoppel. Refresco argues that the Truesdale agreement was binding on the parties as of April 3rd, 2023.
Why do people want to drink caffeinated sports drinks? Okay, to be clear, a sports drink is a hydration drink typically. A caffeinated drink is a different thing. But why do people want to drink it? Because it feels awesome. I don't really use pre-workout anymore because I passed out in a restaurant. I just dipped and hit my head on the deck. So, and I assume it was because I was drinking too much pre-workout. Like every day I was taking it. There's a lot of caffeine in it and I was double scooping. So I stopped taking it. But you feel, when you like double scoop and you go to the gym, you feel like a monster. You feel like a beast. You feel insane. You can feel your heart beating through your ears. Okay. The pump feels, in my opinion, a little crazier. Okay. Cause you're like, argh. Like you feel like you're on drugs, which I mean, in a literal sense you are. Caffeine is a drug, but you feel insane. It feels good. Thank you for the dono, Kenzie. But yeah, like pre-workout feels awesome. That's why. I mean, there are health complications that come with like too much caffeine consumption, obviously, but before you get there, most people don't think about that, you know, and then it hits you like a brick wall someday and you're like, oh, I need to slow down before I have a fucking heart attack. Thanks to the dono, eviction noticed.
And it fully performed on its obligations under the contract, and Refresco says it sustained damages in the amount of $67 million. Now, the $67 million damages request is pretty interesting because now yet a third company claims that Prime can't pay it.
I mean, that's true. I do need to slow down on caffeine consumption in general, but I will say, in my defense, when you drink pre-workout, you drink it in such a short period of time, right? It's like consuming like 400 milligrams of caffeine. And when you're drinking it, it's like before you're in the gym. Like you just suck it down in like 2 minutes and then you go to the gym. So like it hits you all at once. If you're drinking it in like, if you're sipping it, you know, in like a Red Bull or a Monster, slower over time, it's not going to hit you as crazy. It's going to be a slower output. But if you just drink pre-workout before you go to the gym, like you chug it down, you go to the gym, like you're going to feel crazy, okay? Your asshole's itching. It's on fire. So it's definitely different.
Agrovana is a Massachusetts-based importer, which says it has provided over $70 million, surprisingly close to the $67 million, worth of ingredients to Prime since 2020. Agrovana says it has a contract with Prime for more than $32 million of product for the first half of 2024, but Prime stopped paying its bills and eventually refused to accept deliveries. But Prime contends that the products were defective. In the complaint, Agrovana alleges that Prime failed to pay for products and used, quote, deceptive acts and practices to avoid paying for products it had ordered in binding purchase agreements. And in a story you've probably heard before, the company blames Prime's, quote, inability to sell their product at the rate they project a breach of contract.
Wow. Thanks for the dono. Damn. Logan's really getting attacked at all angles. I've said this so many times. I don't understand why he keeps this up. It can't just be genuine stupidity. It must be like, I guess, stupidity, but more accurately like negligence and like not hiring the proper people to do the job. Maybe he's like getting people that are cheaper to do the job so he doesn't have to pay as much and then they're not as good. I don't understand why he keeps this up? Why is he being sued by all these people right now? Plus, he's also being sued by the victims of the crypto zoo thing, right? How's this happening? Foreskin's in is where it's at. A four is in, if you will. I don't have a foreskin, but I'll try that out if I ever get it back.